Hey everybody, Richie with Sales Development here with Charlotte Horn, and we want to cover the demos that involve the third part of Tempur-Adapt, which again you get no matter which Tempur-Pedic mattress you buy, and that's going to be motion separation, right? Coming down to the old wine glass demo. And in my experience, when I've been working with customers, the motion separation part of it really comes down to my discovery questions. And the question I've asked the most often, that I've heard asked the most often, do either of you toss and turn? And when you do, does that disturb your partner's sleep? Except in my experience, when I ask a customer a situational question, I get a situational answer. And the customer will only think about the exact little scenario that I painted, and they'll only answer based on that. And what I need for them to do is think outside that box, and they really can't do it on their own. So I try to help them along with that by asking a couple of questions that revolve around the larger issue of, do you two always go to bed at the same time? Like, do either of you work a different shift where maybe the wife heads to bed at 10 p.m., the husband works until midnight, and every time he comes home and gets into bed, that motion disturbance wakes her up? Or are either one of them a night owl? Maybe he heads to bed at 10 o'clock and she watches SportsCenter till midnight, and every time she gets into bed, that motion disturbance wakes him up. Well, motion disturbance is sleep disturbance, and as we've covered before, sleep disturbance can make it more difficult to get the deep rejuvenating sleep that we want to get. So what does the demo look like? Typically, if we're working with couples, the demo would look like this, and I'm simply going to ask Charlotte to turn on her side facing the wall for me. And then I'm going to get into bed the way I would normally get into bed, right? And get right into the position that I'm in right before I go to sleep. And Charlotte, I'm going to bet that you barely felt me get into bed. Is that right?
That is correct.
That is correct. That's what I'm going for. And notice I did not ask Charlotte, did you feel me get into bed? That's not really the question that I want to ask, something like an open-ended question like that. Why? Because there's a good chance Charlotte would have said yes, and that doesn't help me at all, right? What am I going to do with that? So we always want to think of ourselves, and the RSAs do too, as a good attorney, and this is a customer as our witness on the stand, in the sense that a good attorney never asks a question that they don't already know the answer to. So the question isn't, did you feel me get into bed? The question is, you should have barely felt me get into bed. Is that right? Why? Because there's only two possible answers to that question. Yes, you're right, I barely felt you get into bed, which is the answer Charlotte gave. And in some cases, people will say, I didn't feel it at all. Both of those answers give me wow factor, then move the sale forward, get me closer to the happy chairs, writing up my Tempur-Pedic sale.